Amelia Grace Carter was 33 when she finally said, "I do." A soft-spoken woman from Fairhope, Alabama. She worked as a high school librarian and rarely ventured beyond the pages of romance novels. She had prayed for years for the right man. And when Pastor Gregory Wilkes entered her life, he seemed like a gift straight from heaven. Gregory was 42, tall, kind, and well-respected in the town. He led Grace Baptist Church with charisma and passion, always talking about holiness and truth. Amelia met him after attending one of his sermons. His words about patience and spiritual love melted her heart. They courted for 8 months. Gregory was careful, always bringing flowers, quoting scripture, and promising that love must be built on God first. Amelia's friends warned her that it was all too fast, but she didn't listen. She was in love, and Gregory was the answer to her long, lonely prayers. The wedding was small and sweet, held in the backyard of the church. Soft gospel music played, and Amelia's eyes glistened with joy as she walked down the aisle in her mother's lace dress. Her heart swelled with hope. But behind Gregory's gentle smile, there was something else, something he never shared. That night, they stayed at Gregory's home, now their home. It was a simple 2-story house near the woods, with a wraparound porch and a garden full of roses. He had told her it used to belong to his grandmother. Amelia thought it was charming. Gregory showed her around. Every room was neat and organized. He pointed out his study, his prayer room, and a locked door near the back of the hallway upstairs. "That's just storage," he said quickly when she asked. The night passed peacefully. They prayed together, kissed, and fell asleep. Amelia thought she had everything she ever wanted. But in the morning, she woke up to a strange smell. She followed it down the hallway, toward the locked door. It was faint, but unmistakable, rot, like something dead. She pressed her nose closer and felt her stomach turn. When Gregory came out of the bathroom, she asked him about it. He paused for too long. "It's probably a dead mouse," he said, avoiding her eyes. But Amelia wasn't convinced. She had read enough mystery novels to know when something wasn't right. Later that afternoon, when Gregory left to pick up lunch from town, Amelia found a screwdriver in the garage and quietly forced open the door. The moment it swung open, she nearly collapsed from the stench. Inside was a small, dark room filled with old wooden crates. And crawling from under one of them were maggots. Dozens of them, wriggling across the floor. Amelia screamed. She pulled the nearest crate aside with shaking hands and fell backward in horror. Inside was a sack, half-rotten. Something was inside it. She didn't have the courage to open it all the way, but what peeked through looked like a piece of rotting flesh. Maggots swarmed it. She stumbled away, slammed the door shut, and threw up in the bathroom. When Gregory returned, she was waiting at the door with her bag packed. "I want a divorce," she said, shaking. "I'm leaving. Don't follow me." He didn't stop her. He just stood there, silent. She fled to her sister's house, heartbroken, hands still trembling. Her dreams of love were crushed in less than 24 hours. But what she didn't know then was, this was only the beginning. And someone was going to die. Amelia sat on her sister's couch, still wearing her wedding dress. Her eyes were red from crying, and her hands trembled each time. She thought about what she saw. Maggots, flesh, the smell, the locked door. It kept replaying in her mind like a horror movie she couldn't turn off. Her sister, Becca, wrapped her in a blanket and placed a cup of tea in her hands. "You need to call the police," Becca whispered. That wasn't normal. That was something evil. But Amelia shook her head. "I don't know what it was. I didn't open the sack. What if I'm wrong? What if it really was just some dead animal?" Becca stared at her. "You don't run out of your house 24 hours after your wedding because of a dead animal." Amelia looked down at her tea. There was something in that bag, something that made my skin crawl. The next morning, Amelia drove to the courthouse and filed for an annulment. She couldn't wait weeks or months for a divorce. She wanted out now. She told the clerk they had a spiritual mismatch. That was all she could say without sounding like she was losing her mind. Meanwhile, Gregory kept quiet. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't try to explain. That silence scared her more than anything. Then came the nightmares. She saw herself walking through the dark hallway again, opening that door. Only this time the sack opened on its own. Something reached out, wet, pale, covered in maggots, and grabbed her ankle. She would wake up screaming. 3 days after leaving Gregory, Amelia got a knock on her sister's door. It was Detective Paul Reno from the Fairhope Police Department. Mrs. Wilkes. He asked, showing his badge. Miss Carter, she corrected quickly. What is this about? We received a report, the detective said carefully. Someone from the church mentioned your sudden separation from Pastor Gregory. And there's been talk. Talk? Amelia asked, trying to steady her voice. About a bad smell at the pastor's house. Some of the deacons tried to check on him. He wouldn't let them inside. Amelia swallowed. You should look in the room at the end of the hallway upstairs. The detective raised an eyebrow. What's in that room? I don't know exactly, she whispered. But I think it's something dead. That afternoon, police officers arrived at Gregory's house with a warrant. Neighbors watched as men in gloves and masks entered the house. They didn't take long. Within an hour, the street was crawling with officers. A crime scene tent went up. A coroner's van pulled in. Inside the crate, under the maggots, they found human remains, wrapped in a shower curtain, stuffed in a plastic sack. Female, decomposed, probably a few months dead. Gregory Wilkes was arrested in front of his church the next morning. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. The whole town was in shock. He was our pastor, one woman said through tears on the news. He married my daughter. He baptized my baby. How could this be true? Amelia watched the news from Becca's couch, numb. She was shaking again. She had almost slept beside a killer. Kissed him. Trusted him. Promised her life to him. And now, someone was dead. Someone who had been hidden like garbage in his house. But who was the victim? And why did Gregory kill her? Those answers were still coming. And Amelia's life was about to spiral even deeper into a nightmare. The news spread like wildfire. Body found in pastor's home. Gregory Wilkes arrested for murder. The headlines were everywhere. Grace Baptist Church was closed. The congregation was stunned. Reporters gathered outside the police station day and night. And inside the quiet of Becca's home, Amelia sat frozen, trying to make sense of everything. Detective Reno came back to speak with her. This time, he brought a photo. Do you recognize her? He asked gently. The picture showed a woman with soft brown eyes, curly hair, and a warm smile. She looked kind, ordinary, like someone you might sit beside at a church potluck. Amelia stared at it, then slowly shook her head. No, I've never seen her before. Her name was Rachel Hartley, he said. 31. From Georgia. Her parents reported her missing 4 months ago. They said she was dating a pastor. Amelia's stomach dropped. Gregory. Reno nodded. We're still confirming everything. But we believe she was in a relationship with him, possibly living with him before you ever came into the picture. Amelia's heart pounded. He told me he hadn't been in a relationship in years. Well, Reno said grimly, either he lied, or he killed the last woman he loved. Amelia covered her mouth with her hands. The weight of it was too much. Every kiss, every word Gregory ever said to her now felt poisoned. I could have died, she whispered. I could have ended up like her. Reno nodded slowly. You were lucky. But Amelia didn't feel lucky. She felt haunted. She spent the rest of the week answering questions from detectives. What did Gregory say during their courtship? Did he ever mention an ex? Had she ever seen signs of violence or odd behavior? She told them everything. How he always changed the topic when she asked about his past. How he was obsessed with control. Everything in the house had a place. And he got tense when she moved things. How he refused to let her open that door. Little details that didn't seem important at the time now felt chilling. As the investigation continued, detectives found Rachel's phone in Gregory's garage. Her last messages were sent to him. Why are you locking me in again? You said you were going to let me go. I'm scared, Greg. Please. Amelia read the texts and broke down crying. That poor woman had suffered. Trapped. Terrified. Forgotten. Gregory had continued preaching every Sunday while her body rotted in the next room. It didn't make sense. Why? Why would a preacher, a man of God, do something so evil? But there were more secrets to come. One night, Becca walked into Amelia's room with a folder in her hand. You need to see this, she said. It was a printed article from an old online forum. Woman disappears after dating traveling preacher. Another from 2 years earlier. Missing woman last seen with church speaker. And another. Authorities suspect foul play. In disappearance linked to visiting pastor. Amelia's blood ran cold. The stories were in different towns. Different names. But the photos, once you looked closely, showed the same man. Gregory. He wasn't just hiding one secret. He had a history. A trail of women. All trusting. All hopeful. All gone. And Amelia had almost become the next. But now he was behind bars. Or so she thought. Amelia tried to sleep, but the nightmares wouldn't stop. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw maggots. She heard Rachel's cries. She imagined herself in that sack, rotting in the dark while the man she married stood over her coffin in church, preaching about love and forgiveness. She hadn't left the house in days. Becca tried her best to help, cooking, praying, even keeping the TV off, but Amelia knew the truth was louder than silence. Gregory had done this before. He wasn't just a killer. He was a predator. And somehow, no one had stopped him. One afternoon, Detective Reno came by again. He had an uneasy look on his face. "Amelia," he said carefully, "Gregory made bail this morning." Her heart dropped. "What?" "A private donor paid the bond. We're looking into who. He's under house arrest with a GPS monitor, but he's out." Amelia stood up, her body stiff. How can someone like that be allowed out? After what he did? Reno sighed. "It's the system. No official charges were filed for the other missing women yet, just Rachel. And without a confession or solid proof of how she died. His lawyer convinced the judge it could have been accidental." Amelia's hands shook. "He killed her. He kept her in his house with maggots crawling over her body. You think that was an accident?" "We don't think that," Reno said gently. "But what we believe and what we can prove in court aren't always the same." Amelia backed up to the wall, her head spinning. Gregory was free. He knew where she lived. And she was terrified. That night, Amelia kept the lights on. She locked all the doors, pushed furniture in front of the windows, and kept a kitchen knife under her pillow. Becca offered to stay in the room with her, but Amelia said no. "I need to face this," she whispered. But she didn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., the motion light on the front porch flicked on. Becca and Amelia both sat up. They looked out the window. No one was there. Becca turned to her. "It's probably just a raccoon." But Amelia didn't answer. Her heart was racing too fast. She waited until morning, then drove to the police station. She demanded protection, a restraining order, something. "We can put a patrol car outside for the next few nights," Reno said. "But that's all we can promise for now." It wasn't enough. Amelia knew Gregory. She had seen the calm way he smiled, the way he avoided eye contact when asked about his past. He didn't get angry. He didn't shout. He planned. He was the kind of man who waited for the right moment. And deep in her soul, she knew he wasn't finished. That same day, Amelia received a letter in the mailbox. No return address. Just her name in perfect, careful handwriting. Inside, there was a small photo. It was of her, taken from a distance, at the courthouse, holding the annulment papers. On the back of the photo, 2 words were written in black ink. "Too late." Amelia dropped it. The nightmare wasn't over. It had just begun. Amelia sat frozen at the kitchen table, the photo lying in front of her like a curse. Becca hovered nearby, whispering, "We have to tell the police," over and over. But Amelia barely heard her. The words on the back of the picture, "Too late," were echoing louder than anything else. That night, 2 police cruisers were parked outside, their red and blue lights silently spinning. Becca locked every door. Amelia didn't sleep. But morning brought no peace. Detective Reno came to collect the photo. "We'll test it for prints," he said. "But if he wore gloves?" "I know he did," Amelia said softly. "He's careful. He plans everything." Reno looked at her seriously. "I've dealt with killers before. But your ex-husband? He's different. He hides in plain sight." Later that afternoon, Becca stepped out to pick up groceries. Amelia stayed back, trying to breathe, trying to be strong. But when she walked into the living room, she saw something that made her blood freeze. On the couch was a small, dirty box. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. Hands shaking, she opened it. Inside were dried rose petals, a burned church bulletin, and a piece of white lace from her wedding dress. Amelia screamed and dropped the box. She ran to the front door. It was still locked. She checked every window, closed. Then she noticed the back door. It was unlocked, wide open, swinging slightly. She backed away, trembling. That night, she stayed at a hotel under a different name. Becca joined her. The police promised they would increase patrols. But Amelia no longer felt safe anywhere. The next day, Gregory's GPS monitor lost signal. Panic erupted. He had cut it off. He was gone. Detectives swarmed the area. Churches, abandoned buildings, nearby towns. They found nothing. Amelia was moved into protective custody. But she didn't feel protected. 3 nights later, at 2:40 a.m., her phone rang. The screen showed a blocked number. She answered with trembling fingers. Silence. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Familiar. I told you. It was too late. She dropped the phone. Police traced the call. It was from a burner. The next morning, Amelia made a decision. I'm not waiting for him to kill me. She told Detective Reno. He's hunting me, and I'm going to find him first. Reno tried to stop her, but Amelia was firm. He's hiding in those woods behind the house. I know it. That's where the smell came from before I even opened that door. Something else is back there. With Becca beside her and Reno reluctantly following in his car, Amelia returned to Gregory's house. It had been sealed off, but the backyard was untouched. The trees stood tall and thick, forming a dense forest. Amelia grabbed a flashlight and stepped inside. The smell hit her first. Not as strong as before, but it was there. Rot. Decay. She walked slowly, heart pounding. Then she saw it. A small wooden shed, half buried in vines, about 50 yards behind the house. It had no windows, just a rusted door. Amelia paused. He's in there. Reno pulled out his weapon. Stay back. But Amelia didn't listen. She kicked the door open with all her strength. Inside, it was dark until the flashlight beam revealed what was hanging from the ceiling. Photographs. Dozens of them. Of women. Of Amelia. Of Rachel. All pinned up like trophies. And on a wooden table beneath them lay another sack. Flies buzzed around it. Fresh. Reno moved forward and opened it. Inside was a body. It wasn't Gregory. It was Becca. Amelia's scream shattered the silence of the woods. Amelia collapsed to her knees, her scream still echoing through the trees. Her flashlight rolled to the side, its beam bouncing across the shed's walls. Faces of dead women captured in photos. Smiling, unaware of what waited for them. Becca's body lay twisted and cold in the sack, her mouth slightly open as if she had tried to call out. Detective Reno pulled Amelia back just as she reached for her sister. No, he said firmly. Don't touch her. We need to call this in now. I told her not to go alone. Amelia sobbed. She just stepped out to get groceries. I should have gone with her. I should have. This isn't your fault, Reno said, though his voice trembled too. Gregory planned this. He's playing a game. Within 20 minutes, the woods were filled with officers, forensics teams, and search dogs. The shed was now a crime scene, roped off with yellow tape. Becca's body was carefully moved and covered. Amelia watched through tears as the last piece of her family was taken away. She sat on the back porch of Gregory's house, staring at the trees. Why? She asked quietly. Why did he do this? Reno sat beside her, exhausted. Power. Control. He lures women in by pretending to be holy. Then when they try to leave, he punishes them. But Becca wasn't even involved. You were the target. Hurting her was his message. Amelia stared at the woods. The branches swayed in the wind, like fingers pointing to something she couldn't see. That night, the mayor announced a citywide manhunt. The police released Gregory's photo on every news station, offered a reward for information, and even brought in FBI agents to help. But Gregory had vanished. No trace. No sightings. No phone pings. He had become a ghost. Amelia was moved again, this time to a safe house 3 counties away. She was given a new phone, a fake name, and 24-hour surveillance. She couldn't even visit Becca's grave. It felt like she had died too. Days passed. Then a week. No sign of him. Amelia tried to rest, tried to rebuild pieces of her mind. But everywhere she turned, she saw his face. On newspapers. On TV. In her dreams. One evening, she was sitting by the window when she noticed something strange across the road. A white car parked beneath a tree. Engine off. Windows tinted. She stared for several minutes. Then the car drove away. She called the police immediately. The next morning, they found tire tracks in the grass. A match to Gregory's car, which had never been recovered. He had found her. Again. Later that day, a package arrived at the front desk of the police station where Reno worked. No return address. Inside was a Bible. And tucked inside the pages was a photo. Amelia. Sleeping. In the safe house. Gregory had been there. Watching her. Touching her things. And leaving without a sound. The message was clear. He was always one step ahead. Amelia didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor with a blanket wrapped around her, a knife in one hand and a photo of Becca in the other. Her sister's smile brought tears to her eyes, but also something stronger, rage. He won't stop, she whispered to herself. Not until one of us is dead. By morning, she had made a decision. She called Detective Reno. Take me back to Fairhope. Reno tried to protest. Amelia, you're not safe. I'm not safe anywhere, she cut in. But I know how he thinks now. I know where he hides. I want to end this. With you or without you. Reno sighed, then agreed. That evening, they returned to the place where it had all started, the church. Grace Baptist stood silent, abandoned, its once shining cross now rusted and leaning. Weeds grew through the walkway, and broken hymnals lay scattered on the steps. Reno and two officers swept the building. It was empty, but Amelia knew something. She stepped onto the altar where Gregory once preached. She closed her eyes and spoke softly, not to God, but to him. You've taken everything from me. My peace, my sister, my life. If you want to finish it, come do it. I'm not running anymore. Silence. Then, a creak. From beneath the pulpit, Reno raised his gun. Trapdoor, he whispered. He moved fast, opening the hidden hatch under the floorboards. A ladder led down into a dark, musty basement. Wait here, he told Amelia. But she followed anyway. The basement was damp and cold, filled with old pews and dusty robes. In the corner, they saw him. Gregory, kneeling, praying. He turned slowly, a twisted smile on his lips. You came. Reno aimed his weapon. Don't move. Gregory stood calmly, hands raised. Why would I run? I've already given her everything. Shut up. Amelia snapped, stepping forward. You didn't give me anything. You stole everything. And now I want the truth. What? Gregory looked at her with eerie calmness. Because women like you always leave. Rachel did. Becca would have. But now they're mine forever. Reno shouted. Turn around and get on the ground. Gregory didn't move. Instead, he pulled something from his coat, a small blade. Drop it, Reno barked. But Gregory looked at Amelia one last time. We were supposed to be one. Then he slashed his own throat. Blood poured fast. He dropped to the floor, twitching, then still. Amelia gasped. Reno rushed to check for a pulse, but it was too late. The preacher was dead. His final sermon. Silence. 2 months later, Amelia stood at Becca's grave, a bundle of lilies in her hand. The sun was warm on her face, but her heart still carried cold scars. The police confirmed Gregory was linked to 4 other missing women, including a young girl in Mississippi. All buried, all forgotten, until Amelia opened that door. She had survived, but survival wasn't peace. Amelia moved away from Fairhope, changed her number, started therapy. Slowly, painfully, she began to live again. One Sunday morning, she visited a new church, not to pray, but to sit in the back row and cry quietly. No one recognized her. No one asked her to speak. And for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. The past would always be part of her. But Gregory Wilkes, the preacher with the rotten heart, was gone, buried with the Maggots, where he belonged.